We'll reconvene the hearing and apologize once again for the slight delay. At this time, I'd like to recognize the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Griffith, for 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here, and I do appreciate the fact that you're willing to come and speak with us on a fairly regular basis. In your testimony, you stated that as of June 10 of this year, several dozen large industrial sources of greenhouse gases, such as cement plants, power plants, refineries, and steel mills, had received permits for greenhouse gases under these programs, PSD and Title V. How many is several dozen?
Pardon me?
How many is several dozen? Are we talking about just 24, or is that,
hang on,
or is there some other number?
44 permits with greenhouse gas limits have been issued, 37 by the states and 7 by EPA. And 29 permits are pending at EPA.
All right. And are those permits final, or are some subject to appeal?
The 44 permits would be final permits. I do not have knowledge of whether or not they have been appealed.
All right. And how many permit applications are pending or waiting to be processed?
29 with EPA.
There are 29 pending with EPA?
Eight pending permits, draft permits issued by the state. We have 29 permits pending at EPA. 24 of them are greenhouse gas only. That's where the states do the rest of the permitting. And 5 of them are for the full suite of pollutants that need to be permitted through our PSD program.
And how long does it take to process an application?
The requirements in the law ask us to complete the permit within 12 months of a completed permit application. So that is the goal here, and for the most part, we have achieved that goal.
So you're saying it's 12 months, because my understanding is at a field hearing in response to a question for the record following your testimony last year in Texas, the committee asked how long would it take to process a PSD permit, and my understanding was that at that time you indicated it would be made in a few weeks for most projects. And so you're telling me now it's taking somewhere close to a year?
The requirement under the Clean Air Act is for EPA to expeditiously process them. They recognize a 12-month window between a completed application and issuing the permit. For greenhouse gases, we have in some ways beaten that and done it more quickly. Other times it takes a while for a completed application, and then we have completed it within that 12-month period.
Yes, ma'am. You know, one of my concerns, I'm switching gears on you. One of my concerns when I hear the testimony, and it's not new with you, or it's not exclusive to party either, is that sometimes people from more affluent areas don't understand what's going on in a district like mine, which compared to the rest of the country is not that affluent. $36,000 is, I believe, the latest census data on the household income. And so when we have new regulations, you know, no matter how well-intentioned and how much they might save somebody money, when you add $1,000 more to the cost of a car by 2016 and a total of $3,000 more by 2025, you're basically saying that a lot of folks in my district won't ever be able to afford to buy a new car. In fact, the National Auto Dealers Association says upwards of 6 million people won't be able to afford a new car because of these costs. And you know, it's just sometimes when I hear folks talking about the cost of electricity, when your boss, Lisa Jackson, was in here and I asked her what happens when people can't afford to heat their homes, she indicated there's a program for that, but my people back home tell me that in the cold winter, the program runs out of money about mid-February and people are cold. And I'm just wondering why we don't have, or at least not have the appearance that the EPA is paying attention to some of these numbers, that unemployment does happen. In my district, we have 2 coal-fired power plants that are going to be shut down. One of them is going to be retrofitted and partially reopened with natural gas. And of course, I also hear from my folks who make electricity, and one of them no longer works in the industry. He says, we've been through this before where natural gas prices go down and everybody thinks that's going to be our savior. And inevitably, we always have to turn back to coal. And so you're looking at a lot of different health factors, people not being able to heat their homes properly. We heard a testimony in a different hearing yesterday that unemployment is a major factor in determining whether or not people are healthy. And yet it does not appear that when the EPA is studying these regulations that they look at So what happens in the poorer regions where they can't afford the electricity, or they can't afford a new car, or it's going to create large pockets of unemployment in the region? We've lost 1,100 jobs in coal in the region, not in my district, but in the region in just the last few weeks. And, you know, it just amazes me sometimes that there seems to be a disconnect with Washington and with more affluent areas of the country who don't understand that they truly are relegating the people that I represent to a lower lifestyle, a lower health quality standard. And, you know, I don't think it's intentional, but it sure is real. And I appreciate that, and I yield back my time.